Welcome everybody. This is the special interest group for SharePoint patterns and practices, and in this one we'll concentrate, which is a bi-weekly call, we concentrate on a PnP Core and BMP PowerShell. And this is the November 16th, 2016 version or the session. Now, this week is a quite busy week for the community. So there's two big conferences. There's one in Amsterdam or in Haarlem, and a lot of people are actually there. And there's one in Vienna, as an European SharePoint conference, and that's where I'm calling from. So I quickly jump away from the conference center to do the call, and we'll continue the stuff then afterward. But we should have time for open questions, quite a lot of open questions today. But let's quickly have a look on the agenda. So we do have a few things which we wanted to quickly cover and get it recorded as well for those who were not able to join. And let's see if I can switch the slide. Obviously, just to quickly clarify, SharePoint PnP is owned by the SharePoint Engineering, and we, from the Redmond organization, use the SharePoint PnP to give guidance for the community, together with the community. So MVPs and other community members are contributing to the PnP quite actively. The themes are obviously on SharePoint, mainly on SharePoint, because we are owned by the SharePoint Engineering, but we do overlap with other stuff in Office 365 as well, like General Office 365 development and absolutely Microsoft Graph as well. There's code samples, guidance documentation in MSD, and monthly community calls, and there's special interest group calls, which are, I would say, it's still kind of a relatively new thing, but we want to make sure that we have, let's say, more targeted discussions with the community around specific topics. So we do have a special interest group for BMP Core, CSAM, or BMP PowerShell, and this is this call, which is bi-weekly call. And then we do have a bi-weekly call on the SharePoint framework and JavaScript development. And surely some people are joining both, and some people are joining the one which is more close to their heart. So we kind of always have the topics and discussions on certain areas. In the monthly community calls, we then go through what has happened within the past month, what are we going to do in future, with demos as well. Today, we do not have a massive amount of new material because the whole team has been traveling between conferences and MVP Summit, so we haven't actually done a massive amount of, let's say, changes from a core team perspective. So what we are planning to do is just quickly have a look on the latest statistics from October and some even newer statistics. It's always interesting to see, and maybe for the community to realize that you're definitely not the only one using, for example, the BMP PowerShell, but there's quite a lot of other people using these samples as well. We'll have a quick discussion around the November release of SharePoint Online CSAM. So there is a new package coming up later this month again, and I listed some areas and some topics which will be included in that release, which will hopefully help people who are working with SharePoint Online in this case, because it's the client-side object model package for SharePoint Online. A reminder on the BMP moving in GitHub to a SharePoint organization. We've gone through that already in the last special interest group call, also in a monthly call, but it's good to have a discussion on that one as well, and a kind of a reminder for people what's happening. And then for the demo, we kind of try to figure out something interesting, and tomorrow we do a keynote, developer keynote, in the European SharePoint conference with me, Erwin van Hoonen, and Paolo. So we'll start today with the keynote, and one of the things what we actually are showing is that how can you provision a modern team site using a bot, which is actually a pretty cool demo. So I wanted to, for those people who are joining this call, to have a sneak preview on that one of the demos from keynote, and we'll get the recording then out after the keynote. So you'll have now an opportunity to see what we're going to show tomorrow in the keynote as a, let's say, the wow demo, or from a demo perspective. I can't show you, unfortunately, the iPhone integration on that one, but you can see what are we going to do within the demo is still pretty cool. And then we should have plenty of time for questions and answers. So let's have an open discussion if you have any questions, opinions, feedback from Microsoft or engineering or PnP in general as well. But let's get on going on things. So first topic, what we wanted to quickly kind of pinpoint is some statistics. So this is, I know that there's a lot of stuff on the slide and it might like scare you, but let me quickly explain what do we have here. So on the left side, we have all of the samples, what were viewed, or top 20 samples from PnP, which were accessed during October 2016. Except the first one. The first one is actually one of our internal newsletters, and it had like 3,000 readers, so it went on top of the list from usage perspective. But we used the same tooling for tracking our newsletter reading. But it's actually really interesting statistics to see that the number one, let's say, sample or solution from the PnP gallery is actually how to do publishing portals in Office 365. And that's underneath the BMP Repository, underneath solutions. It's called by business O365 Starter Intranet. And that's done by Frank Corney, who's a MVP from Canada, unless completely mistaken. We did saw him last week in MVP Summit as well, but I never kind of put a perfect location on where he's actually sitting. The second topic, kind of understandable as well, is the SharePoint UI responsive. And this is the SharePoint UI responsive package, which is making classic SharePoint responsive, which is a extremely popular sample or a solution what people are using. And you can use that also in on-premises or in SharePoint Online. There is a massive demand for making SharePoint responsive, and obviously all of the new SharePoint capabilities, the modern team side and all of that, they're natively responsive. But the classic SharePoint, the classic, I would say, SharePoint 2013 look and feel SharePoint, it's not responsive by default, and that package is doing pretty good job on making it responsive. It can only make responsive, I would say, out-of-the-box capabilities, out-of-the-box UIs, and out-of-the-box maturity of the out-of-the-box things. And if there's any really rarely used web parts, those things unfortunately cannot be translated as a responsive as such. Because the old SharePoint UI is built with tables, and tables are not responsive. The modern UIs are always rendered using div and a few other things, so you can actually make them responsive. And then just to pinpoint from the left side, few items. So it's interesting to see that the remote event receivers is always pretty high. So it's either because our remote event receiver guidance in MSDN is not up to date, or maybe it's the sample itself is referenced in many locations. The user profile meme sync is always pretty high. Good to see also that the BMP JavaScript core is gaining visibility. And then some of the new stuff, so SharePoint framework stuff, which begins with an SPDef FX web parts. Those are SharePoint framework web parts, which are in dev preview in SharePoint Online. And it seems to be that the React bot framework is the most popular, well, second most popular one after Office Graph. People Picker, profile picture uploader, understandable. Provisioning stuff is also on the list, which is understandable as well, because people quite often want to use them. On the right side, we can actually see what's the latest from the past 7 days. And there's certain, I just added a few arrows to see how things are moving. Certain things are going slightly down, certain things are going slightly up. So the UI responsive, once again, is going up. The Office 365 starter intranet, slightly down, that's fine as well, understandable. And on the right side, we don't have a newsletter as the number one topic, so if nothing else, everything has gone up at least a 1 bit. But to be fair, the items are pretty much the same. And this gives us, obviously, from a PnP perspective and engineering perspective, insights on how customers want to customize SharePoint. So we're able to take this into account in our future planning as well. But that's around that one. So let's have a look on some additional statistics as well, just to walk through what are we collecting. So from a PnP Core component perspective, we are collecting the number of tenants and the requests which are coming across the tenants as well. Because PnP is owned by SharePoint Engineering, we do have access on the logging on the SharePoint server, SharePoint online site, and we're able to trace back on the usage. So we can see, for example, the first one, which has a green bars, we can see that the green color is really the how many tenants, how many requests are coming from the PnP Core is the green one, and the black arrow is how many tenants are using the PnP Core in SharePoint, in SharePoint Online. We can't obviously track on-premises usage, which is absolutely understandable. So in October, we hit slightly above 2,500 unique tenants in SharePoint Online production. And for PnP Core, only for PnP Core, we hit 750 million requests as HTTP requests. And that's pretty impressive. The prediction for the November is that we're going to break 900 million requests. So let's see if we can actually break 1 billion requests in December. To be fair, December is a holiday month, so most likely we'll see the 1 billion to be broken, maybe on February or January. We'll see how it goes. But that's actually pretty impressive. And the reason why we want to actually see this and show this is that if there's kind of a doubts on, hey, the BMP Core looks good, but is it actually used in the production? Are people using that? And the answer is yes, they are. So there's a lot of big customers, enterprise customers, mid-sized customers, smaller customers, and partners who are using BMP Core and also PowerShell. There's an additional slide on PowerShell on the next one. On the right side, on the bottom of the slide, we can see which versions are used. So the most popular version for time being is the August one. And people have not been upgraded that fast for the newer versions, which is fine. If you're not running any issues or running into any issues, no reason to upgrade. We do understand that, even though there are obviously bug fixes in the latest version. On the right side, we have nice charts of top 10 countries from a request perspective and then from a count of tenant ID perspective. And United States, understandable, that's number one. There's the most of the tenants, well, not most, but it's the biggest area. So it's grouping a lot of the tenants. If there would be Europe as a one entity, it would be actually bigger than the United States. But in Europe, these are counted by an individual countries because they are individual countries, which is understandable. So we can actually see those countries listed on the as an individual items on the list as well. In October, there's some nice development. So Brazil was a completely out of blue jumped to a number 2 on the request count, and most likely there must have been few migrations to SharePoint Online, which is common use case for using SharePoint, the BMP Core or the BMP PowerShell. And that's always raising the request count some. And the count of tenant ID is only 13 from Brazil, so it clearly indicates that there was a big migration ongoing during October. Denmark, United Kingdom, understandable. Well, Scandinavia is adapting stuff extremely fast, including Netherlands. Finland is there, Iceland is there. Austria is pretty high as well from a request perspective, and Sweden and Germany. Pretty understandable list, except no offense for Brazil guys, but it's like, oh, with 13 tenants, you're generating that amount of traffic. So it has to be a migration with some going over there. On the count of tenant IDs, this is pretty understandable list as well. United States number 1, UK number 2, Netherlands is super adaptive on the latest technologies, so that's number 3. Sweden, Scandinavia in general is on the list, and then Germany is a big one as well, and France is on the list as well. And Australia is on that list. So 100 tenants already used PnP Core during last month. From a PnP PowerShell perspective, the specific tracking for PnP PowerShell is relatively new. So we actually started this quite late, starting from September. So if you are using an older version of the PnP PowerShell, there was no specific tracking. Those numbers actually were gathered inside of the core numbers. But from here, we can always see that September, October, there's a pretty big leap going forward on the PnP PowerShell usage, and the numbers keep on growing. So the average is, if we duplicate the November, it's clearly above the October, which is good to see as well. And on the country side, we can see pretty much the same countries as within the PnP Core component side as well. So either way you're using PnP PowerShell or PnP Core, you're actually using exactly the same code because the PnP PowerShell is using the core component behind of it, but you can call those operations just by using script. That's really how we differentiate these two things. So Good. I don't think we have additional statistics. That was a quick run through on the latest of the statistics, just to let you know. Some notes on the November 2016 release. I was planning to do a full list of changes from a property and method level, but unfortunately I had some access issues to our corporate network from the conference center. I can tell you some ideas on this one. So we will release a new SharePoint Online Nuget package on 25th of November. That's a Friday, or it might happen 24th. So it's a week from here. It's 2 weeks from here. It's next week, actually. Okay, cool. Well, I know that because I need to do that. So I'm the person who's releasing this. And then we are continuing releasing a new APIs based on a community input. So we do know that people are asking a lot of APIs in user voice, and it might feel frustrated that it might take slightly long time to get to your new API available. But in this case, there will be a lot of additional APIs again introduced. So there will be additional system update changes, and I probably need to explain in a blog post also why did we expose another one. We have this kind of a nasty situation with SharePoint client-side object model. We have 2 updates available right now for list item. We have the update and system update, which was released, I think, in August release of this year. If you need to modify the modified by and modified at information, so as in the who has modified the field or when it was modified, which is a common scenario for migration. You can actually do that with client-side object model as long as you have a sufficient permission. And you need to execute the list item update method. If you, however, do that, it will generate a new version for the list item to be created. Well, the idea for exposing the system update was really to tackle that challenge. So we wouldn't actually generate a new item to be created when we do that overriding of those information which is relevant for migration. Unfortunately, when you use the system update, you cannot actually modify the modified by, created by, modified at, and created at field. So to resolve that, we do actually have a third system update method in server side, which will be now then exposed in the client-side object model, starting from the November release. There will be also additional stuff like save list as a template will be exposed, and some additional stuff related on custom theme or theme folder handling. Currently, if you apply a theme for a site, you cannot kind of make it inherited inside of the site collection, and that property is going to help with that. A request is coming directly from the user voice, and we're trying to address them as fast as we can. But we do also have a limited resources, so these things every now and then takes a while, but we do listen, which is a good thing. And a small notice on this one, so the client-side object model versions for on-premises, there's a specific versions for them as a Nuget packages, so you cannot use client-side object model for SharePoint against on-premises. Or technically you can, as long as you don't hit a method or property which is not exposed in on-prem. But there's quite a lot of things which are only available within SharePoint Online, and that for that sake, it would be good to use the right version for your right environment. Good. Moving on list of topics. And by the way, if there's any questions or concerns, feel free to use the iron window as well. So I can pause and answer on them as well. We talked about this one 2 weeks ago in the special interest group already. We talked about this one in a monthly community call as well, but we'll keep on repeating this in every single time. So we are moving the BMP repositories gradually underneath from the Office Dev underneath the Microsoft SharePoint organization in the GitHub. Even though you would do active development against core or samples and you would like to contribute back, this doesn't actually mean a thing for you. So the GitHub has done an awesome job of supporting relocation of these repos or repositories in a way that it doesn't reflect forks and it doesn't reflect connections or anything like that. But obviously, so all of the old URLs, all of the old forks, all of the old stuff what you have done in a Git will still keep on working. For the future, maybe at some point it's worthwhile to update the URLs. so you don't get fully confused. Hey, I'm pushing this to the Office Dev. Why is it landing on the Microsoft SharePoint? But it's going to work in the future as well, which is pretty awesome. We're doing this mainly because the Office Dev organization has mainly interest for the Office extensibility, so the Office client-side extensibility. And mainly the BMP samples are mainly in the SharePoint side. So we're kind of making sure that the BMP is under the SharePoint brand because it's owned by the SharePoint as well. And because it doesn't cause any issues for the people who are using it, there should not be any reasons why we couldn't be, why we shouldn't be doing that. But we'll let you know. Well, you can clearly see the change if you browse to an Office Dev organization or BMP site whenever this has happened. But like mentioned, there's an automatic redirections in Git side, so everything works seamlessly. We tested this with a BMP.js core, which is the JavaScript core component for BMP, and that has been already moved, and it went completely without any issue, which is pretty cool. So kudos for GitHub on a great implementation on the repo handling. Good. Moving on things. So, like promised, I promised to do a quick demo how to provision modern team sites using Microsoft Bot Framework. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm calling from a hotel in Vienna, so hopefully the screen is sharing fast enough. But let's see how this actually goes. So I'm going to share my desktop. And when I'm doing this, I cannot see any longer any IM discussions. So Bert, if you can unmute yourself, and if there's any good questions on whatever I'm showing, just let me know. So.
Yep, I'll take care of it.
Cool. And then I need to have a green light for people seeing my Skype.
Visible for me.
Okay.
It actually went faster in your hotel room than when you're in Finland.
Yeah, that. Yeah, there has been some connectivity issues in a hotel today, and only can get a Wi-Fi to work is that you go to receptionist and get an exception, which means that majority of the hotel rooms are most likely not connected. A lot of bandwidth.
That's a way to fix it.
Yes. So let's actually do this. I'm going to want to make sure that I'm doing this in the right way. So I'm going to actually go to my Office Dev BMP tenant. So this is one of the test tenants we use in PnP Core, and I'm going to go to my mail. The reason why I'm going to go here, I can show you in practice real time when the modern team site is actually getting generated. Right now, you can actually see that there's quite a lot of, I would say in quotes, crap here because we've been testing the capability. But you should be able to see, whenever I'm creating the new group, you're able to see that one visible and reflected on the left side. And in this case, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually use the Microsoft Teams website, Microsoft Team functionality to do that. But let me do this. So I'm saying hello to my bot using the Microsoft Team, and the bot is answering hectically for me as well. Okay, well, hello to you as well. So this is a bot which has been hooked in to the Microsoft Teams, and I'm having a discussion with the bot. It's called by BMP SharePoint Manager, which essentially is just a name for the bot, which I implemented, I think yesterday we got all of the things working. But the bot itself is running in Microsoft Azure. It's using the Microsoft Bot Framework. The code itself is relatively ugly. I can quickly show you that, but there's nothing super special on it. And then the bot is using our PnP Core component, the November release, which has some methods, and the BMP PowerShell has it as well, has some methods how to create modern team sites using a code. So essentially what we did was that we implemented the bot, and then the bot is taking advantage of the BMP Core component, which has a method to create Office 365, modern team sites using code. If you would like to use them and create them manually, you would actually do them in here. You would click a new, and you would create a group, and that group is actually a modern team site. So if you go to the files of the group, it will be actually a modern team site. But let's not actually create that manually. So let's use our bot for creating that. And like mentioned, we're going to use this one tomorrow in the in the keynote. We have a developer keynote in the Vienna, but I wanted to give you guys who are joining on this one have a sneak peek on one of our demos. So, there's some new messages. Let's actually click that one. That is showing the latest one. Good. So I can obviously have a chat with my bot. I can say to him, hello, and it depending on if the bot is warm or not, essentially is the Azure application warm or not, it's going to reply fast or slightly slower, which is fine. We're going to do tomorrow's keynote. Tomorrow's keynote is with Irving. So Irving Manhunen is joining me on the stage on that, and obviously bot is aware that Irving is essentially one of the main creators of BMP PowerShell. So it's saying to us, BMP PowerShell is amazing. Thanks, Irving, for that. And actually, we have also Paolo on stage. And obviously, bot is aware of Paolo's reputation as well. And Paolo rocks, which is absolutely true. Paolo absolutely rocks and provides a lot of valuable information for the community. Then, we can start chatting with the bot and we can start asking additional stuff as well. So we can do something like we would like to create a new collaboration site for us. But the bot seems to have a small attitude, so I didn't actually say please. So it's actually answering me that you should say please, which is fair. So, okay, dear bot, would you provision me a new site, please? And let's see how it goes. And working on it. And after a while, obviously the site collection the modern team site creation is actually super fast comparing to the classic site collection creation. But it still takes few seconds to complete. So what we're doing here is that the bot is calling, like mentioned, the core component method, which can be used to create modern team sites using the Microsoft Graph APIs. But the core component is essentially encapsulating. And I don't know if you noticed, we flashed on the left side. That was a relatively fast one. We need to delete obviously this for the tomorrow's keynote. But the bot was a nice enough to give me a note, created a modern team site for you in address of that one. And if I copy that, I can actually go to the site and paste that one in, and we can see that we have a modern team site. There's the modern team site documents library, but if I click home, I actually get to be in the home, and we're good to go. And there we go. I essentially use Teams and my bot to operate against SharePoint Online or Office 365 to create me a group, which is actually creating a modern team site. And we could further extend this capability as well. And what's really cool about this one is that we do have mobile devices support for Microsoft Teams as well, and for the discussion with the bot. So I can actually have this whole discussion in audio as well. And let me quickly try that, because this is actually pretty cool. You guys cannot see this, but you can hear me talk to the bot, and you can see the UI just update as well. We're here in the BMP call. Pretty close. We are here in BMP. It didn't understand. So, okay. Can you repeat that? Answers my bot. Paolo is call guiding. And most likely it cannot understand my pronunciation, which is understandable. It's again saying, can you repeat that? Would you create me a new site collection? And sending that again from my iPhone. There we go. Would you create me a new site collection? You should say please. Damn, the bot has an attitude. Please. And there we go. And hopefully it's working on it. So it's accepted my sincere request for requesting a new team site. Kind of cool. What's kind of related on this one, because we do have some time, so let me go here. And I didn't prep this one, but why not actually show that as well? So this one is related more on the SharePoint framework, and we are in the BMP JS Core, core component and PnP PowerShell call. So I wasn't really planning to show this, but why not? So we can do sp dev fx webparts, cd samples, cd React bot framework, and I can do culp serve from here. So if you are interested on a client-side web part, we actually showed a classic scenario with this bot a while back, but we can make this bot or connect our client-side web part, which is a chat UI against the bot framework, connected to this same bot what we have in the team side, connected to the teams as well. So what's going to happen here is that this is going to start my local workbench, and while it's doing that, I'm going to quickly go to my bot registration, because I actually need to have one ID from here. So let me go to devbotframework.com and sign in as my Hotmail account. Yeah, keep me sign in, that's cool. And I can go to my bots, and there's my PnP SharePoint Manager bot, which has been registered, and the whole connectivity across the bot framework is up and running. But I need to copy the direct line secret, so I can hook in my client-side web part to talk to the same bot. Where did it go? Oh, they changed the UI today, which is pretty interesting. Let me do this. I'm going to go to Visual Studio. I should have the bot details, and I do not have the secret. One more moment. Where's my bot? Bot sample. And I did actually copy my secret line, which is the secret, which is the connectivity between my bot chat. So this is my client-side web part, which is implemented using the client-side object, the SharePoint framework. There's my direct line secret, and now it's connected, and I can say again, in the same way as I could actually do that in the Teams, I can actually have a chat with my bot, which is hanging in Microsoft Azure, and create me a team site. And probably, yeah, you should say, please do that for me. And working on it, and it actually starts creating the team side as well. So the UI itself can be switched between Slack or Skype or Teams or SharePoint Framework client-side web part, which is a custom web part implemented to talk against the bot. This could be placed in the front page of the intranet, and this could be a support channel. There could be a bot which is collecting and analyzing information from your SharePoint and responding back on your queries and asking and whatever. The scenarios are pretty interesting. And seems to be that it's supernatural. Well, it is actually supernatural. Ask something around the bot or from the bot. I can't get my mobile Outlook to work. Could you help me with that? And in this case, another modern team site has been created, and I can switch to the right tenant, and we can see that if I go to that team site, it was just created a few seconds ago, and we can see a modern team site to be created. So actually super cool stuff when you start thinking the opportunities. Right now, the bot is relatively, well, in quotes, stupid. It doesn't have too many, it doesn't really have artificial intelligence or too much analysis on what are we actually asking. But you can already have a discussion and you can already have a request a new team site if you are polite. So this is a bot with an attitude. Good. That's all what I'm planning to do today on this one. So obviously we're going to show this one tomorrow in the keynote, like mentioned. We're going to use the iPhone and connectivity and all of that. And it's actually a pretty cool scenario when I think of it. Any feedback, actually, I'm kind of interested on hearing if there is any interesting feedback. You can also unmute yourself if you're interested. Was that cool? Stefan is actually, yeah, Larry is replying as well. Yeah. It's obviously, when you think of it, it's a technology demo as well. But even in SharePoint engineering, we're kind of looking into the bot framework, and we're kind of looking into what we can establish with the bot framework in the future, because it is pretty natural to use that kind of a chat, and with an audio recognition as well. So you can actually have a chat with your phone. You can request something from the phone. Hey, I should have the document which I wrote yesterday related on that and that, and we could actually hook that one to the SharePoint search, and we could serve the document from the phone. So there's quite a lot of interesting scenarios which are possible, and we are looking into obviously showing this code or sharing the code. Right now, I can just briefly show you the code. We're not going to do that one into tomorrow's keynote, but it's pretty rough. It's essentially just looking for individual keywords. So I need to know what is the chat mechanism I'm actually going to have with the bot. So there's no kind of a Lewis integration. There's no intent integration at this point. It's only based on certain keywords. So if I do create, it's going to reply me back, you should say please. And if I do please, it's going to then actually start working on it. And the actual creation of the theme site, like mentioned, if I go to the definition, and scroll slightly back. This method in here, let's get rid of the breakpoint. The unified groups utility is coming actually from the core component. So in the PnP Core component, we have already this readiness to create unified groups, which are essentially same as modern team sites, which is a super cool thing. And we're able to also update the logo for the group. So if I go to group, we can see that we have a PnP logo on the created groups as well. There isn't a humongous amount of customization options yet in the modern team sites, but it's already pretty decent. Oh, the sharing actually stopped. Damn. Cool. Just checking the questions. Yes, and there's a good comment from IE with the manners. We need to develop an attitude as well, brings to more human behavior, absolutely. And Stefan has a valid comment. My customers, they're facing more basic problems to get solved. Bots will be there, but for now, we would love some improvements in core PowerShell. Yeah, we get that. So obviously, this is for keynotes. So in the conferences, in the keynote, we need to show something interesting. And for the past week, there has been a lot of pull request processing happening as well. So there's a lot of improvements coming in the core component and PowerShell. So, and you might, Stefan, already added those issues to the issue list, but absolutely, please tell us more. What's the problem, and we'll try to get them resolved. Raphael is asking, is it possible to provision a SharePoint framework app, probably on the front of the page or the modern team site? And unfortunately, that support doesn't exist yet. So you cannot control what's actually visible in the modern team site, and which means that it's quite limited for the time being. Good. Yeah, that's fair. Let's have when we go to the Q&A, which is pretty soon, we can have an open discussion on stuff. Good. I'm going to go, I think we're actually heading to the Q&A. Hey, there we go. Remember the slide properly. But we don't have more than this to actually show for the time being. And because we've been super busy with the MVP Summit and a few conferences for the past weeks, and after this week, things will luckily settle down. But let's actually open up the stage for open questions. There's a pretty long one. When using import BMP app package, commandlet app gets imported properly to site. The problem appears to be in site app permissions. App is if nothing is rendered for us. I need to retrust every app to hand that's working as app part again. So the problem of adding an app to a SharePoint site, this is not actually a PnP specific issue. The challenge is really on the fact that we do not have an API to trust the app or adding. There is no such API available in CSAM or in REST that you would be able to fully run through the process of adding an add-in on a page. I'm just looking into your reference. You're probably using HTTP post processing, and yes, you are, which is a one way of working around this. Now, the alternative for this one is that if you are implementing custom add-ins for your customer or your company, you can work around with this, and after that, the import BMP app package will not require you to do trusting. And the trick is that within your add-in, request a farm level permissions, or tenant
level.
Yes, tenant level permissions. And that might feel like, hey, but it's an add-in which I'm going to add on the site, and it only requires access to the list. Yeah, that's fair. But if you provide and request the tenant level permissions, and you add that add-in once to a tenant within a SharePoint Online, to a site within a SharePoint Online. It could be the root site, it could be the app catalog site, it doesn't really matter, as a tenant administrator. After that, you give the trust operation, the tenant level trust command, and after that, you can add that add-in to any site without any trust operations. And even though the app has, at that point, tenant level permissions, it's always the combination of the end user permissions and the app permissions. So it's not like the end user is going to be able to do whatever additional capabilities or additional operations which the end user would not have any permission. So that's one way of getting around that. But to be honest, the thing what you're doing within the, invoking JavaScript and clicking the trust operation from a UI, that does work as well. I would say that that's not something which we from engineering would say, hey, that's a great thing and awesome thing, because we might change those UIs at some point. But it does work. We know that it works. We know numerous customers who are doing that as well. So it's fair. We should have a native API in SharePoint to do the trust operation if you have sufficient permissions. And there is a user voice entry, which hopefully has already quite a lot of votes for getting that done. But that's not specifically on the BMP. The reality is that the BMP is limited on what are the native APIs exposed using the SharePoint Online. But hopefully, long talk and long answer, but the question was pretty long as well. So hopefully it did make sense. Are you opposite to extending core to handle content types and subsites? I have a customer on-prem with that need and have started the fork and would love to roll it back when complete. So I'll wait for. This is one of those things. So how we've been going back and forth within the core team on this one, and originally it was actually mine, Vesa's decision, and not to implement the support for subsites, because actually that's not recommended. You will run into massive challenges from maintenance challenges if you have large site collections, which all subsites could have unique content types. So as a rule of thumb, already since 2007 or 2010, we've been kind of always saying that please do not create site-scoped content types. Create site collection-scoped content types, but use them in an individual subsites. And with the core, with an engine, the BMP provisioning engine, we essentially, that's pretty much the only thing where we decided that, yeah, that feels so wrong, and it will cause problems in the longer run, that we didn't implement that support. We had few times a pull request coming in with the support, and for the time being, we've always declined that with an explanation of that it will actually bite you if you start doing that. Then again, Larry, if there is a valid need or because somebody is demanding you to do that, you can absolutely do that. Technically in SharePoint, that works. But we would not probably get it included in the engine, unfortunately. You would have to implement that as a extensibility provider for the BMP.
Or a second template.
Or as a second template.
Just
That's a fair point.
use without any development, just create two templates. One template that you apply to the root side of the site collection, and then one template that you apply to the sub-site. So at that point, you kind of divide things, which is pretty logical as well in my view. And it would not require you any development work.
Yes, and that would mean that in the sub-site template, you would not have the content types included, but you would have the content types included in the root site template. So whenever you are creating a new sub-site, you would just apply the one template in the code or in PowerShell against the root site, which has the content types. If the content types are already there, that's fine. It's not going to actually change them. And then when you create a sub-site, because we have the root template, it would make sure that the content types are there, and then you create a sub-site. The references to the content type would be successful. That would be a better way to do that, because then you have a centralized control for the content types from the root side of the site collection. But again, we do know that our guidance in MSDN and all of that is pretty rough on the edges around this. And I don't think we explicitly anywhere in MSDN tell why you shouldn't be doing sub-site content types in a sub-site. So it's understandable that people might be trying to do that. So Nigel has a question: is it possible provision sites and sub-site at the same time using a single provisioning template? Technically, yes. So absolutely. So the logic in the template, in the engine, if you're trying to create a content type to a sub-site, it will actually skip those content types. Mm-hmm. And that's by design. We really went and thought about it for months. What do we want to do? And it's going to skip them. It's going to create the sub-site. Otherwise, as long as the content types already exist in the content site collection, or you apply both of the templates, the root template and the sub-site template, the root template, the root, and the sub-site template, as says for sub-site, you'll be good. Because the engine itself, you don't have to create templates in a way that they are match to one side is a one template. A lot of the customers and partners are actually creating multiple templates which they apply. So they have content types in a one template, branding in a one template, list and libraries in a one template, and based on a selection of the end user, then they select how many of them they will apply to a specific site. Absolutely valid design, and actually absolutely working superbly well, actually. Is there anybody working on a way to get publishing sites inside of Pages library to work with templates, with web parts and rich text? Probably referring to actual content within the Pages library. Because the engine itself, so the provisioning engine, we don't want to start moving it back to the content side. The content is something which is on the responsibility most often as the migration people or other people. You can, however, add the content to the template after it has been extracted. So we do not extract content except the welcome page. But at that point, when the template has been extracted, for example, as an XML file, you can actually modify that XML file. And you can add items, you can add pages, you can add list items, you can add stuff to the template itself. Mm-hmm. But that would be a manual operation. So, and we know that people are asking, why on earth are you not extracting content? That's because that's a much more complicated scenario than people might think. So that would take years to be as reliable as it should be.
Yeah, thank you. But the problem is also with the page layouts and so on. To get them from your template, you want the team site or something like that, or a workspace, to have the same architecture like the base. So you have also to get all this publishing stuff working. And that's my problem for now. I can get all the features activated. I can get every site page from the wiki sites in there, but the publishing pages is the last thing to be 100% of the customer needs.
So, and you're saying that the issue is more not on the publishing page, rather on the page layout.
No, I think on the publishing pages, page layouts should be exported. We check whether it's a standard page layout and we skip those, but if it's a custom page layout, it should get exported. If that's not the case, then let's create an issue. We will investigate, share us the template.
Yes.
You get, but content like pages based on that custom page load, they of course, like Vesa mentioned, are not exported.
Mm-hmm.
For that, you would need to have a custom accessibility handler, for example, to add that logic to the provisioning flow. Well, extraction flow in this case, yes.
And we know that there's quite a few people who've been working on and looking into this one. And we know that, well, there might be a we're waiting for the contribution to have a custom extensibility provider, which is taking care of the content as well. But I know that there's a few guys who are pending, still kind of, I'm trying to find the time to actually finalize that before I do a pull request.
Yep.
So it's getting close.
And also the publishing capabilities in the engine are, well, not really new, but they are, let's say, fairly recent, meaning there might be bugs as well. So if you see something weird, just let us know, and then we can try to fix it. Well, if we have a repro, we typically will fix it. So yeah, but we just need to know. We have test scenarios covering a lot of cases, but well, you can't test every possible theoretical combination of things. So.
It's SharePoint. It has infinite ways of.
Unfortunately, that's one of the benefits of SharePoint. Yeah, it's like infinitely complex sometimes.
Yeah, it's too complex as well. And by the way, related on that one, obviously the issue lists are really important for us. We know that some of the issues are pending for quite a long time as well, but we're trying to trace those and keep on pushing us. Remind us on the issue as well in the Microsoft Tech community or in the issue list as well. Feel free to be rude as well. We are trying, but it really comes down on the resourcing as well. So.
And I want to, well, this week we processed a lot of older pull requests, so I want to give also some apologies for the guys that have been waiting for this. There are some pull requests out for months due to resourcing and complexity of the pull request, and back then we lacked the proper test framework. Now we have a lot of unit tests that makes it easy for us to also test the more complex pull requests. So a lot of them have been closed this week, and the issue list is definitely an area we also have to work on. I will work on in the coming weeks. But yeah, if something's really important, can kind of bring it to our attention somehow, so we can escalate and speed up that thing.
If we only would have infinite resources, that's always the case, but we do understand that when people rely on the engine, we need to act fast as well, and that's one of the reasons why we've been forced every now and then to do a secondary or even third monthly releases when there has been a critical issue in the engine. So I think we're getting there, but it's true that the publishing sites are still, well, I wouldn't say a mystery. There are certain elements within the publishing sites which are not 100% bulletproof. So the team sites are pretty decent already. But like mentioned by Bert, so after this week, so MVP Summit was last week in Seattle. I was there as well working with my manager who's in Seattle and my team. But then this week is the European SharePoint conference. After that, everybody gets back on the normal cycles, and we can expect much more faster resolution on issues as well. If we only could be able to clone people, that would be cool. Anyone in the call has a solution for them? Bots, yes. Thank you, Patrick. Of course. So let's do this. Let's have a 6 months break on none of the BMP work and write a bot which will actually help us on the. That doesn't sound right. Bots. Good. Any other questions, comments? And hopefully we can help on the questions rather than say, sorry, we'll have a look on that. Oh, we missed something from Nigel. So could each subsite have a different theme? For example, are there examples of this? Technically, each subsite can have a different theme. When you are, however, applying a theme is dependent on the root site situation. So what you would have to do is apply or add, well, actually, technically, no. Sorry for that. I'm telling nonsense. The themes are kind of an interesting beast. So there's the composite looks gallery. The composite looks gallery is the one where you need to get new entries if you want to expose the theme option for end users. And that has to be in the root of the site collection. So if you want to expose new options for your subsites, you have to add composed look entries to the composed look gallery in the root of the site collection. Technically, you don't have to have a list entry on that list for your custom theme. So what you can do is that you are able to apply an SP color file and an SP font file and the background color to a subsite without an entry on that list. Now, right now, currently, the PnP engine actually assumes that you want to create a list to that composed look UI list. So that theory doesn't work with an engine perfectly right now. We're looking actually of modifying that because it relates on the modern theme site customization story as well. So for now, what you would have to do is add themes, add all of the individual themes to the modern composed looks gallery, and then apply the theme different one by one for the subsite. But it's not really obvious, and it's really badly documented for time being. The theming is, how would I put it? It's a nasty implementation from a reusability perspective. It works great on a root site, but then the subsites are much more problematic. Was that the one, Nigel, which you were looking into any input? I couldn't solve your question 100%, though, but at least I was talking a lot, ex-consultant. You are as well, Bert, come on.
I'm silent now.
Yes, not going to confirm that. Let's not tell anybody. And Patrick, you're an ex-field consultant as well. Will Roosberg hold the championship? That's a good question. I would hope so, because Roosberg has a Finnish passport as well, so he has dual citizenships, Germany and Finland. But since Germany is a relatively slightly bigger market area than Finland, he took the Germany flag to his car. So in general, are there any examples of provisioning multiple sites and subsite at the same time? I don't think so. So we don't have anything in the PnP provisioning as such. What we could do...
Well, the test cases show how to create...
Sure.
Well, actually, you have two aspects, Nigel. You have the aspect of creating the site collection and creating the individual subsites in the site collection. That's not something which is inside the engine. Then you have the aspect of applying the template to the created site collection or created subsite. So for the applying part, I think we have enough samples. For creating a site collection and creating subsites, we have our extension methods in the core library that can help with doing that. But we don't have like a way where you can describe a structure. I need this site collection with 5 subsites, and they have subsites, etc. So we don't have a kind of a way to model that and apply it automatically with one call. So you have to do it on yourself.
Yeah. And there's a good question from Stefan. Stefan, depends on which country you're from, how to pronounce your name. But when you export a site to XML or PnP file, internal stuff like lists is skipped, right? Question mark. Answer in general is yes. So that's really the whole point. But there are a few edge scenarios there. What if somebody has gone and modified any of the out-of-the-box system lists or internal lists? The engine is actually clever enough to recognize that, and it's going to extract that change from that list. So if somebody would have gone and done something crazy like modified the master page gallery with an additional column, the engine itself will actually export them. It's going to realize that, hey, there's a change within the list, so therefore let's actually get this additional column in, and let's, whenever you're applying this template, it's going to add that column to the target site as well.
Essentially, we're comparing with base templates. So the PnP Core library has an extracted copy of each regular SharePoint template. So we save the XML, and then we compare at runtime across what you have extracted versus what should be there by default. If there is a delta, a difference, we keep it in a template. If it's the same thing, we just drop it. You can change the behavior if you want. So in the template applying information object, you can kind of blank out the base template. If you explicitly put a null value in there, then it will always export everything. So you have that option if you want.
Yeah, but Stefan has because Stefan works on German, I can assume that it's Stefan. So Stefan actually has a good point. So if it's German side,
base templates are in English. So yeah,
yes, the base templates are in English, and that's then resolving the situation where we're exporting the whole site.
Yep.
That's true. Maybe theoretically, if we can automate the base template creation, which isn't fully automated for time being, we theoretically can get the base templates in future in multiple languages. So we would get it to work more cleanly and more efficiently across multiple languages.
Yep.
That's a fair point.
Okay, Stefan, can you, for our reference, can you just create an issue describing this problem so we can track it?
Yeah, that would be actually really good. Yeah, because that's a good thing. We want to be multilingual supportive. The core team members, or majority of them, no offense, Patrick, are from outside of the English-speaking area, as you can figure out from our accent as well. So,
what do you mean, Vesa?
Yes, issue the core.
Yes, core. Yeah.
Cool. We're hitting the hour, so I think that's it for this week. Unless there's kind of there's one more quick urgent question which I want to get answered. And Roosberg, hopefully yes. So his father got it in '82. So, and he was Finn. So, but it's fine. It's his. It's Roosberg's turn. Hopefully.
I think we should start stopping the call.
Yeah, I think
it's getting out of control.
Time to stop the call. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We'll get the recording available in the YouTube video PnP AKMS PnP videos. So in our YouTube video channel within, I would say, 24 to 48 hours. Slightly depends on the timing. But it will be after tomorrow's keynote where we show the one of the demos which we showed today. And yep, you're welcome on the demo preview as well. It's a pretty cool setup, so pretty excited on that one that we were able to get it work. But thank you everybody. The video recording will be available, like mentioned, in YouTube relatively soon. And let's continue having a discussion in a Git or in tech community. And please give us input, and if something isn't working, just let us know. We are seriously trying to help you as much as possible. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.